Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. This is Rob. This video, we continue our mirrored countdown of Toho's movies that are eventually leading up to the reveal and hopefully a trailer or more information regarding Godzilla Zero. This one, we are at Final Wars. This is probably one of my favorite movies just because of all the craziness. And Final Wars, this one actually, I remember it distinctly because if you guys come to my streams and we talk about the Heisei series and we talk about the Showa era and all that stuff, one of the things I always mention is how hard it was to get the media that is so easily available now was not easily available back then. So you guys hear how, like for example, Godzilla vs. Biollante came out in '89, but I never got to watch it until 1992, and I actually watched it by accident on like Showtime or something. They showed it. Anyway, I'll save that for Godzilla vs. Biollante. But even though we're rolling into the 2000s here, it still was not that easy to get the media, but much easier than it was before, but you had to wait. Like, so for example, you see how like we were talking about Shin Gojira the last video, and for Shin Gojira, I think we had to wait like what, 6 months, maybe 7 months after it released over in Japan, and then it came over here. Well, back in 2004, when they first announced Final Wars, I didn't actually get the movie on DVD, I think until about 2 years later at Best Buy. But I remember when they announced the movie because this was kind of a big deal. I remember it was on Entertainment Tonight. They had Godzilla at the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He was getting his star, and there was a big promotion because they were announcing Final Wars was the final movie. Godzilla was having his Hollywood star done. I remember watching it on Entertainment Tonight. Back in 2004, I was, I believe I was still living in the Bronx, but in the process of moving upstate. I was still with my parents at the time. This is kind of like when I was back and forth living with my parents. And yeah, I remember, yes, I was still living in the Bronx, and I remember hearing about it, and I kept as good tabs on the movie as I could, because again, still the information still wasn't as easily accessible, despite the fact that the internet was getting faster. There were more websites popping up. You didn't have back then the kind of websites that like are there now. Like I remember, you guys heard IGN, the video game website. Well, back then they were called Sega Sages. All right, you want to talk about old school? That's so that was when IGN was SegaSages.com. That's where I used to go to check out games and stuff like that. So but I remember trying to keep tabs on the movie as much as possible, and then I finally heard that it released on DVD in the States. And I remember by this time I was living upstate. I was living in Hopewell Junction. I had already started school again. I was just getting back into college. I hadn't met my current wife, and I hadn't even met my ex-wife at this time. So I was still in New York. I wasn't even in Massachusetts yet. And I went into Best Buy and I bought the movie, and man, I remember watching it that night and I just enjoyed the hell out of it. I still enjoy it to this day. It's goofy, it's off the wall, it's ridiculous, and I'm all for it. It's probably, I mean, GMK is really good too, but GMK is good for a almost complete opposite reason. So I always lean towards saying that Final Wars is my favorite millennial era Godzilla movie, and I know that'll shock people because of GMK, but I love GMK for a complete different reason as to why I love Final Wars. But I think it's because of the fact that knowing at the time that it was the final Godzilla movie and seeing how epic they made it, and it was also one of the few Godzilla DVDs I own, because at that time they were just starting to transfer some of the movies from VHS into DVD, and I definitely had some of the VHSs. I didn't have them all. Like I said, it wasn't as easy as you might think to get these movies on cassette or on DVD in the 90s and the early 2000s. In fact, it's become much easier. I would say probably shortly before I started doing YouTube, and I started doing YouTube in 2013. So I think it's that feeling, it's that like dopamine hit. I remember how I felt when I actually owned the last movie and I was actually about to watch the last movie. And so every time I see Final Wars, I correlate that with that feeling. And I think that's why it always is just one of my favorite millennial, era movies. And yeah, that's kind of the story behind Final Wars for me. I had to wait 2 years, even though I knew it was coming out, and it was announced in I think early 2004, and it released later in Japan in 2004, or maybe it was late 2000. I don't remember exactly. I'm sure somebody will check the dates, but it was definitely a couple of months before the movie released in Japan that I saw the promotion on Entertainment Tonight. Oh my God, Mary Hart was still there. That was before Mario Lopez. Mary Hart was still there. And oh my God, I can't really remember her name. See, now it's all flooding back to me. That's why this is kind of cool that we're doing this. But yeah, I remember I was working at Walmart at the time. I was managing the meat department. I was going back to school. This is at a point I was kind of trying to get my life in the right track. And yeah, and I remember getting it at Best Buy. I knew when it came out, and I went to Best Buy the very time that it opened, 10 o'clock. And I ran in there and I picked it up, man. And I think I don't know, I'm sure I picked up something to eat on the way home and just had my lunch while watching Godzilla Final Wars. And it probably was a great day. I don't remember in detail, but I do remember I do remember distinctly going to Best Buy to buy it. That's for sure. So, but anyway, that's it. That's the story behind Final Wars for me, and it's one of the reasons why I adore the movie as much as I do, because I remember feeling how I felt that day, like, damn, this is the last Godzilla movie on the list, and that's it. At that time, I had no clue about 2014, but definitely thought that was it. So yeah, but anyway, that's it for this video. So where and when were you when you watched Final Wars? It'll be interesting to see what some of you guys say, because I know some of you guys are very young. In fact, by the time we get to like the 4th or 5th movie, some of you guys weren't even born. Holy shit. This is gonna get crazy. All right, this is gonna be fun. So anyway, we'll have 2 more videos tomorrow for you guys in sharing this countdown as we play catch up. But I think this is going to be a fun little series, so I look forward to continuing it, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. Anyway, that's it for this video. This is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.